Hi, it's Kevin Lebates here, and yet another video on blockchain and supply chain. Now, a comment that somebody made on my previous post made me realize that there were some things about blockchain and supply chain that I thought were obvious, but that probably should actually be made explicit. So, looking at the problem of supply chain, the issue you have is a question of ownership of components or goods, identity of owners, and transactions that take place during manufacture or during shipping. And the reason why a blockchain is a useful system in order to implement a supply chain is particularly because the parties involved may not fully trust each other enough in order to open up their respective ERP systems or data systems or tracking systems in order to share all the data within them. And no individual party may be a clear entity to assign full ownership of all the tracking and shipping data. So in that sense, the fundamental property of a blockchain in enabling the building of trust between different parties with different aims and goals in life is the key point that makes them useful. So in supply chain, you have issues concerning efficiency. You don't want to be holding too much stock, but you want to be able to fulfill orders in time. Then you have questions of accountability, namely being able to confirm that goods have actually been transferred. And these things all rest upon, as I mentioned before, being able to identify the individual players in the supply chain and also identify the goods nicely. So another aspect that arises here is the one of digital twins being a good way of solving some of the problems of supply chain. Now, in the real world, we have an equivalent, I guess, in the form of sort of paper twins, in that there's a whole tradition of paperwork that has sprung up concerning supply chain. For example, waybills, or bills of lading, manifests, and invoices that are used to ensure that transfer of ownership takes place properly and that people actually get what they paid for. So in the blockchain, you would actually be able to automate all these documents and standardize them in a rather nice way. And furthermore, you end up with a really good sort of web of data that allows you to actually track the whole process from start to finish and determine who was responsible for what. So that, combined with the transparency that blockchains enable, means that you can actually run proper audits on the supply chain right down to the end when a person finally gets hold of the finished product and goods. So if we take a real life example, this way I, for example, can order and buy some eggs off one supplier and some flour off another supplier and bake some cakes and then sell them on to end consumers, who are in this case literal consumers. And if all these activities are tracked through transactions on a blockchain, then you have a clear chain of ownership, and you can go back and determine if there were faulty eggs in the cake, where they actually came from, in a much quicker way than the current requirement for forensic investigations, which can take weeks or months of digging through various systems in order to determine what went wrong. The other neat thing about blockchains is they make ownership very clear. And so there's this legal principle, see if I can remember the Latin, nemo dat quod habet, which boils down to you can't give away things that you don't own. We have a lot of law concerned with the ownership of things and the rights of owners if things are inadvertently lost or sold on when they right to sell on didn't exist. So a blockchain kind of offers an opportunity through unforgeable digital assets linked to real life objects by this concept of digital twins to automate ownership or title of things, which I personally think is really quite neat. So that kind of touches on a whole load of elements that I think make blockchain significant in the world of supply chain, because after all, as I said, it is all about who owns what and who hands what on to whom, and being able to determine after the fact that it's actually happened correctly. Anyway, I hope that sort of quick summary of the issues of supply chain and why blockchain is relevant made sense to you. If you have any further queries, do post them in the comments below, and I'll try and answer them as soon as possible. And there will be another post on supply chain tomorrow. So see you then. Bye for now.